to Dr. Benny.
Hey, hello everybody. My name is Benny Tritsch, and I'm a virtualization expert. It's a great honor for me to be today's host and moderator. In this webinar, we will be covering some interesting digital workspace use cases and solutions jointly delivered by FSLogix and deviceTRUST. In both companies, I'm a member of the advisory boards, and this has allowed me to constantly watch them grow and progress over the last years. So, let's get started. Click here. I hope that we will be able to see the next slide. Yeah, our featured speakers today are Sascha Göckel and Kevin Goodman. Well, myself as the moderator and host. Sascha and Kevin, they're going to introduce themselves. Maybe. Sascha, you want to start?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, guys. My name is Sascha Göckel. I'm the CEO and co-founder of deviceTRUST. Say hello to you guys. I'm really looking forward for that session. That's maybe kind of information about me.
Kevin.
Hi, Kevin Goodman, CEO and co-founder of FSLogix, along with my other co-founders, Randy Cook, Jim Rear, and Brian Mann. We say thank you for attending, and we are looking forward to this. And thank you to Dr. Benny Tritsch for agreeing to host this. Thanks, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem with that. Okay, let's take a look at the problem. Here's a nice quote by Kurt Romer and Christian Riley from Citrix. When you look through this quote, you see they basically agree on the fact that enterprise IT security is dependent on endpoints and user behavior. That's not a big surprise to most of us, and it's also not a big surprise that it's hard to manage. And this is exactly the problem we will be addressing in our webinar today. So I leave it for you for a couple of seconds that you can go through the quote before we move on and take a look at the solution. Okay, let's just take a look at what we have. The solution to the security challenge mentioned in the previous slide is a combo of the selected features of two products. It's a combination of deviceTRUST's endpoint context awareness and FSLogix app layering and masking. You can see on this slide both products have more capabilities, but in this webinar we want to focus on the security use case and highlight the context of dynamic application access. This is the idea of what we will be presenting in this webinar. And in order to get all the details, let me pass the floor to Sascha Göckel. He is, as you have already learned, he is CEO at deviceTRUST and a good friend of mine. We have known each other since almost 20 years now, and he will walk you through what deviceTRUST can do. Hey, Sascha, take it away. The floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Benny. So let's check if it's working. Perfect. Also, again, Benny, from my side, thank you to host this session today. And thank you for the introduction to the challenge, the problem we are facing, and we want to address with deviceTRUST and FSLogix. Just a couple of words about deviceTRUST. So deviceTRUST is a German-based independent software vendor. We are headquartered in the near Frankfurt, in the middle of Germany, and all the co-founders of deviceTRUST have a very strong end-user computing background. So we worked for the last 15 years in end-user computing in different roles, from sales until development. And that was exactly the reason why we came to the deviceTRUST product idea, that we found a lot of projects where additional information was required about the endpoint is connecting to the virtual session. That's exactly what deviceTRUST is doing. We see as a device context awareness for your virtual session. That's our topic. That's what we are addressing. And what I want to do is I want to go through a short introduction slide to point you to the challenge we are addressing with our product and how we work together with FSLogix. So if we look after at the end user computing market, we are more or less have three major vendors in this space. It's Microsoft with its RDS-H offering, we have Citrix with their offerings, and we have VMware. Those technologies are used to deliver the corporate application and the desktop to the to the endpoint. If we look back a little bit, in the beginning of end-user computing, the endpoints was more or less static. So users working from a physical desktop or from a sync client, they worked all the day from one location, from one device during normal business hours. More or less, also for those static approaches, there were different requirements the customer has for accessing their corporate application desktops. Requirements are security related, compliance related, or also configuration related. And how they apply these requirements onto the end-user computing environment was by using different kind of management tools. So we're talking about traditionally about logon scripts, group policies, or more advanced solutions such as FSLogix. And all the access to the corporate resources was more or less based on the role of the user. So if you as a user are part of the HR department, for example, then the management tools was used to give you access to application, data, network shares, printers, which are related to your role within the business. And that was great for the time where we haven't seen a lot of dynamic move from the endpoint. It was all static. But if we're looking how it has been changed by today, and we're seeing from based on our customer experience, we have our customers we already have as deviceTRUST and our partner network, we see this has been changed dramatically. So we see now that users using different devices to connect to your EUC environment. They're coming from different locations. Is this from a corporate location? Is this coming from a home office, from a public location? Or if we have huge enterprises where have different departments, different buildings on their ground. So this is different locations. They're coming from external, typical remote access, or they're coming from internal via Wi-Fi, LAN, at that end at any time. So what we're seeing, and that's exactly the experience we made with our customer base, that the requirements which are still there, they cannot met anymore, because the logic just to combine access purely on the role of the user is not good enough going forward, because you have this mobile world, you have this bring your own device and all this kind of initiatives we see with our customer base. So therefore, beside the role of the user, you also should consider the context of the access. So where the user is coming from. And that's exactly what we as deviceTRUST is doing. We deliver the context into your virtual session. What did we mean with the context? The context, from our point of view, is a logical combination of attributes of the access, which you use to define your own context you're looking for to fulfill your requirements, your security and compliance requirements. So different attributes, as we see it, different attributes can become, or we have started to group the attributes in 4 different categories. One is the category hardware. So hardware have different attributes, and just to name 2 of them is the type of the device you're using. Is this touch enabled or not? Is this mobile? And the other one, which is heavily used, is the serial number of the device, so a unique identifier of the endpoint. If we talk about software, we talk about the operating system itself, the state of the operating system, and we're talking also about security components like firewall, antivirus scanner, etc. If we talk about network attributes, we're talking about Wi-Fi information, for example. What kind of network is used to connect to the corporate network? Is this coming from external via remote access solution, or is coming from internal with Wi-Fi or LAN, or whatever you can imagine on the network side? And it's finally backed up with information or attributes about the user itself. So what kind of privileges the user has on the endpoint. Did he has admin rights? Did he has normal user rights? Is the user is remote controlling the endpoint? There's all questions, or there's all attributes we use and we deliver as deviceTRUST into your virtual session, which then we use to define your context, your individual context you're looking for to fulfill your requirements on the security and compliance side. To summarize that, what we as deviceTRUST are doing is, together with the existing management solution, that's important for us. So we deliver the context into your existing management solutions, and then you can make your condition set not only based on the role of the user, you could also consider the context of the access. And that's exactly what we want to show you now. After Kevin's presentation, we have prepared some videos which show you how the things works together, and that's exactly what we're doing. I would say over to you, Kevin, to progress from this point.
Hey, thank you, Sasha. Like you said, now it's time to for Kevin to take over. So I will pass the floor to my esteemed community colleague, Kevin Goodman, who is CEO at FSLogix. Kevin, your turn.
Thank you. Thank you. I am...
Hey, now we see you in the video. Now you're gone.
I don't have enough bandwidth to do that in all of this. I just want to let you know it really was me and not a stand-in. So, hey, yeah, so thank you, Sasha, for clearly showing us there is a problem that's in here. FSLogix has known about this problem, and we're really happy to be working with deviceTRUST to solve some of these issues we're talking about here. Let me tell you about FSLogix. If you're not familiar with us, we have been around since, I think we came out of stealth in Bryform 2013. Our 1.0 product shipped in 2014, and now we have over 100 customers. Some of them you see here listed on here. It grows every day. We have a variety of products, but what I'm most interested to talk to you about today is our application masking. We have several people, as well as who you see on the screen here, have given us good reviews. We won the Best of Citrix Synergy in 2015. And, you know, in particular, you know, getting kudos from somebody like James Rankin and Andrew Morgan and Frank Roy, that's not easy to do. So we're very proud of these and we put them up. But in general, we have some very, very satisfied customers as well. Our application masking, this was our first product that we came out with. And the idea behind this product is disk-based storage is no longer expensive. And if storage is no longer expensive, then it doesn't make as much sense as it did to install the applications at runtime. Back when storage was very expensive, what you would do is you would have a lean and mean base image, and as a customer logged on, as a user logged on, he would, based on his Active Directory users and groups, be delivered applications at that time. Well, two things happened with that. It was slow, and you had to spoof administrative privileges because applications installed at runtime need access to program files, HKey local machine, things such as that. And if you are the user, say, in a Citrix or a Zen Desktop or a VMware session, you don't necessarily have those privileges. So the products had to be sequenced and packaged. Now that storage is cheap, what FSLogix says is just install, have the administrator install into the base image all the applications. We have some best practices how to do different versions together and things like that. Use those same delivery groups for controlling access. You know, the users in the Office 2010 group get Office 2010. Use the users in the Office 2013 security group get 2013. And then when anyone else logs on, maybe give them a viewer because they don't have access to those. We think this is one of the best ways to do non-persistent desktops. One of the applications we like to point out is Java. Java is a kind of a different beast because it goes based on URLs rather than not just existing on the disk or not. And we also handle that without packaging or sequencing. So you can have one tab that shows an application that requires Java 6 update 25, and another one that requires Java 7 update 41, and another one that requires, or anything else for that matter, the latest version of Java. So in doing that, you can isolate a particular Java applet that you know is secure, but you don't want to use that old version of Java to go out into the wild where there could be you know, security issues awaiting. So when we look at that, by doing it the way FSLogix does it, this new way of thinking, of putting all the apps into the base image and then filtering them out, one of the first things that you get out of that is you reduce the number of golden images you have to have. By reducing the number of golden images you have, you reduce the number of golden images that you have to patch and maintain. You know, when Adobe Reader comes out with a patch every week, then you can just patch it, crack open the one base image, patch it, and push it out to all of your users. If you are using something like Citrix and MCS and PBS, then you're pushing out just the bits that are getting used out on each XenApp or XenDesktop server, so it doesn't really matter how large that image grows. The main thing to keep in mind there is make sure your PBS server has as much RAM as the size of your base image. You do this, and then you don't have to have those XenApp silos anymore, right? That's how they told us to do application virtualization in the old days. Just, I got an app that isn't performing, put it in its own silo, and then publish it as an app onto a XenApp desktop or onto a XenDesktop desktop. Doing that, I think I heard Citrix call it the V-tax. You're just paying more money for vSphere or Cisco UCS or whichever. Might as well keep that money for yourself and get better persistence out of it, get better performance out of it, and make non-persistent VDI a reality. It also works really well when you're trying to do that for disaster recovery. Imagine just having one image in your disaster recovery, and no matter which site fails over, they know they're going to have their applications there. So, as you go through this, couple things you may be asking yourself: what if I have applications with drivers? How about browser plugins and things like that? And because of the way we're doing it, our patent pending methodology enables us to support one version of Outlook that has multiple plugins, or one version of Office that has multiple plugins. You can also do things like have both Adobe Pro and Reader on the same image, and we'll control that Adobe Pro printer for only those that are licensed at it. Or you know, it says on here fonts. We had some customers that were setting up silos because they bought specific fonts for the marketing department. All of those things are not that hard to implement, but they're very hard to maintain in the long run. So as we bring this back around to deviceTRUST, what we find is this is a very good way using FSLogix to ensure license compliance for all users and apps on Windows infrastructure. But there still remains some use cases that Sasha's going to go through that FSLogix is unaware. One of them is what exactly is happening on the client device. Does that client device meet all of the specifications to join onto your network? Does that client device have a license in your device-based licensing scheme? And if not, let's take a look at how deviceTRUST and FSLogix working together handle that. Benny, I think I'm done.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. So, Sasha, are you ready to show us some demos pre-recorded?
I am ready. Absolutely.
Wonderful. So we're changing the screen. Yes, I can see the screen. Okay. So show us the first scenario.
So just to check this, Benny, do you see my screen?
Yes,
licensed device?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Everything
Great.
is fine.
So I will start now. So just to explain what we have here. This is now what I've made is a background picture, though you see what device I'm using. So in this scenario, I'm connecting from a device which is licensed from a business application, and therefore FSLogix is used to publish this application within my image, and that's what I want to show you now. Just as a side note, I'm showing all the demo here native with RDP and native with published desktop. It also works transparently with Citrix ICA, for example, or with a published application. But just to show it to you, it's the easiest one to use, in this case, using a published desktop. So what I'm doing now is I'm connecting from that device to my published desktop, as you can see here. So that's a normal log on process happened. And when I logged on, you will see on the, just pause the video, you will see on the desktop I have a little link called a business application, and that is the application I used, which needs to be, this application is using device-based license model, and therefore because my endpoint is licensed for that application, the application is visible on my virtual session. As you can see here, I can start it in the background. It's Notepad++. It's just an example. There, when we look to our customer base, there are the typical applications used for that is Microsoft Visio, Project, and also on. And this Notepad is just a demonstration about the capabilities we have. And as you can see here, the application is available. And as you can see, it's installed, so it's granted by FSLogix. And what I'm doing now is I am just let this go. I have disconnect the session. I could also use to sign out of the session and sign in again, but I use a more traditional approach. So users normally going to the red cross and say close the application. And what I've done now is I moved now to my unlicensed device. So this device is not licensed for that specific application. And when I start the session here again, you would see that you see happened here is a reconnect happens to your session, and you can see here the application is completely removed by FSLogix, and what we used in the background is just the hardware BIOS serial number of the device, and we say if this is a device which is licensed for that application, then this application is visible within the published desktop. If the device is not licensed for that specific application, we trigger FSLogix, and FSLogix removed this application out of the image for that specific user session. As you can see here, the desktop icon was removed, and also the application was removed within add and remove software. So this is exactly what FSLogix is doing, and we deliver the context, we deliver the serial number of the endpoint. The second video I've prepared for you guys is, let me open that again. Let me open this as well. It's a video where we are talking about the security state of the device. So as you can see here, I'm opening now the local Windows firewall settings. So in this use case, what I want to do is I made or part of this is an example from a customer side as saying our requirement is the user can have access to specific applications when the security state of the endpoint is in the required state. And the required state, for example, is antivirus needs to be run, anti-spyware needs to be run in good conditions. Also, the firewall needs to be enabled and needs to be in good condition. And that's what we see here now. This is the state of my endpoint. That's important. That's the state of my endpoint. What I'm doing now is I'm starting now again an RDP session to my remote host, signing in as expected or as we've seen before. And now my business application is accessible again because an additional requirement for our use case here is that the security state of the endpoint needs to meet my security requirements I have as a company. And what you will see now is if I just to demonstrate to you that the application is installed, you can see I can execute that, and you see here also again it's installed, as you can see here. So what I'm doing now is I'm going now to the endpoint, and as you can see here I'm disabling the firewall. So just pause the video for a moment. So there's different reasons why the firewall gets disabled. It could be malicious activities, it could be a user error, or it could be anything. So the point here is I want to make is we don't know what is the reason why the firewall gets turned off in this scenario, but at least we can understand within the virtual session that the required security state is no longer met. And we will trigger now FSLogix to remove the business application, as you can see here. Firewall gets disabled, and you can see within the virtual session we triggered FSLogix to remove our business application. If I turn off, or the firewall goes back into, or the security components goes back into the required state, you can see the application is fully dynamically available again within the virtual session. And this is just two simple examples of our technology alliance we have together with FSLogix. Is the power of this application masking to do this context aware. There are much more use case behind the scenes. So the license one is our first one. We started together with FSLogix. The second one is a security state dependent application masking, but there are much more use cases. So for example, we have customers requiring when a user is using a Wi-Fi connection on the endpoint, and the Wi-Fi connection is not a corporate one or is not encrypted, it doesn't have any kind of security, you doesn't want to give the user access to all of your application sets. Another use case is you can make this application masking dependent on of a specific certificate needs to be installed on the endpoint. So there's much more you can do with this one, but this is just an example for you that you can see how we work together and how we combine this information. In this specific use case, we are looking for the security state, and if the security state is changing, we trigger FSLogix in this case to remove the application, and that's what we have shown to you right now. Back to you, Benny.
Hey, Sasha, these are great demos. I really like them. I've been to your place and we recorded some of those demos in the past. Still, just to summarize some of the things, I want you to be aware what's happening here is what you have seen in the demos is when you're doing something on the endpoint, the physical endpoint you're working at, and you change things, then this is reflected into the remote session. And this is something that confused me at the beginning when I've seen the product for the first time, because, hey, this is something that was so new, this is such a different way of looking at everything that you may get confused at the beginning. But you always have to keep that in mind. You do something on one side and it changes the behavior on the other side. This is the fundamental thing that is happening with deviceTRUST, and it triggers FSLogix to mask the applications. I really like this solution a lot, and I know that many of my customers are asking me for that particular functionality. Now, Sasha, how can I exactly consume or use the endpoint context? How does that work?
Good question, Benny. So one of our design goals was to make this context or the attributes easy consumable. So what we have done, we made this information available as environment variables within the virtual session. So if you're in the virtual session, you see a lot of additional environment variables. And as a second options, we put this information in a specific user-specific registry key. So all this information are easy accessible by your existing management solution. And that's what we made. So simple. That's always our approach.
Yeah. Again, like I said, you change something on the physical end device, and then you go to the remote session. And within the remote session, there are these environment variables that are populated, or the registry keys or whatever were the places where you can find that. And then you can react accordingly. So exactly. What exactly is deviceTRUST doing on change of the context? What exactly happens?
Yeah, that's a good point. So what we have seen is that during the logon, we transfer the context into the virtual session. We do the same on a reconnect, and as you can see, if you have seen here in my firewall example, we can also identify changes during session runtime. No? And we can identify, or we can define within our product what kind of information you're looking for. There's session-specific information which will never change during session runtime, and there are some attributes which can be changed, like the security state of your device, like the firewall, for example. So we have different properties which can be dynamic, and if this property is changing during session runtime, we can trigger something, and this what we can trigger can be defined in our trigger configuration, so we can apply an action, and this gets then executed when, in this case, the firewall has been changed.
And all the information is transported back by which mechanism? So you're using the remoting protocol?
Exactly. Well, yeah. If we're talking about a pure Microsoft world, when we have Microsoft endpoints and we have terminal servers on the other side of VDI, we're using the virtual channels within the remoting protocol. So this is where we applied our patents for. So we're using the existing remoting protocols, but there will be also other platforms which don't have this ability to create virtual channels within the remoting protocol. Therefore, so for example, iOS doesn't have any virtual channels, so we have a different mechanism to transfer the information into the virtual session. But from the user standpoint or from the consumerization standpoint, this is the same way. You consume the information exactly the same way, only the transport is a bit different.
Okay, and how does it work when it's used together with FSLogix?
What we're doing is, so in our examples which we have shown here, we identify this change. In this case, the firewall, we can identify the endpoint with the serial number. And what we have done is we create a kind of action in our product. So if, for example, the firewall is not in overall the security state is no longer in the required state, we trigger an action, and this action is used to trigger FSLogix to remove this application from the user session. So it's simple again.
Is there any reporting so that I can see what has happened?
That's a good point, and this is important for the licensing use case which we have seen at the first one. So what we're doing, for example, if we trigger FSLogix to enable an application for the user or multiple applications, we are also able to raise an event for that. And this event could also contain in this case, the serial number and some more information. And this information will be stored in the event log, and then FSLogix, for example, can use this information, or using, for example, System Sender, SCOM or something, to read this information. So the key point I want to make is we put this information in the central place, which is the event log of the operating system.
So you don't have your own reporting, but you're using the built-in reporting, and then your customers can sort of analyze the reports that your items and events that you put into the system report.
Correct. Exactly. Because, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, Kevin, I have also a couple of questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you said it's only going to be one image using FSLogix. Is that something what customers are achieving? Does it really work? Because I'm always a little bit worried if one image is enough.
So here's what happens. What we say at FSLogix, we put the system administrator in control of defining those images as opposed to the applications that are in control. We have several customers who have different geographical locations and different people in charge of those images. And for that reason, they may end up with 2 or 3 images in doing so. But the size of the image that we've seen can grow to be the size of the RAM that you have on that PVS server.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
So we have customers who have over 500 gig of base image that are running quite easily.
So that means one image means large images, and otherwise you can have like a handful of images if you want to have smaller footprints.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are the user and admin productivity savings, for example, with Office 365 containers?
Oh, so for an example, if you talk to the image management, you don't have to update Service Pack 2 on every one of your images. You don't have to update Adobe Reader with every one of your images. You just update it once and it gets duplicated out. One of the other productivity images that, depending on what storage system you're using, we've done a white paper with Tintri. Our customers also, of course, have Nutanix and Pure and Atlantis. They are very, very good at rapidly cloning an identical image, and they're very good at not having a lot of overhead on them. So 1,000 images costs about the same as 2 images. And that's very, very important when you're out there doing Zen desktops. That is one of the biggest savings. You mentioned
Yeah,
containers for
Office
Office.
365. Yeah.
One of the performance things you get out of that, and most of our listeners would be very familiar with the issues that you have with OST files. As you move to Office 365, Microsoft is requiring cached exchange mode. Cached exchange mode means you have to store your files offline in an OST, and nobody from Citrix has really had a good answer from that. No one in the community has had a good answer for that. And FSLogix Office 365 containers are that answer. We enable you to do the instant search, and we enable you to store that OST on the network, but we give you the performance as if it's local. It is amongst those guys you saw at the beginning of this screen. They have told me personally, I think Gabe, we quoted him, he's been waiting 15 to 20 years for this. So,
Oh yeah. That is for me personally, it's also the most exciting feature that you have. That finally, well, the Outlook problem is solved, and all of these things, the Office 365 stuff, that gets more and more popular. So many of my customers are using this, and yeah, they're constantly looking for a solution, searching for a solution. Now they have it. I know that you're not positioning yourself as a profile product, but what happens if your customers already have a profile product in place, like res or absence or user profile disk or something like that?
So the situation is, you are correct. We do have our own profile product, and quite often customers decide they want to replace whatever they're using with it. But let's face it, especially we know this, we partner with Res quite frequently. Res is a wonderful product, and you have people that just spent a year implementing Res. They're not about, and Res has with the store and all of the other stuff that they have in there. It's just a superset of our profile container, and the
And that's
customer
what I want
said,
to ask from a
yeah. So
profile
customers
management
say,
perspective. From a profile management perspective, you can also work standalone,
yeah, we could
but you
work
also work
standalone.
nicely.
But let's say you said that to us. I just implemented one of those other third parties, and I'm not about to admit to my boss, that I made a mistake, but I still need Office 365.
Okay.
We can layer in on top of those other third parties. We integrate now. Now, like I said, with Res, we integrate very tightly with Res.
Yeah.
If you have one of those other third parties and you're trying to figure out how to do Office 365 with them, we have a solution for it. Our competitors tell you they will work, but you would be shocked how many little things they don't know are not working when they actually get that up and running.
This is
Opening up files, that attachments, and getting to run in the application as opposed to downloading those files and opening them. It's little things like that that put FSLogix in search. You have to have search on non-persistent, otherwise it's just not. It's not a good product.
wonderful. This is why I said you are not positioning yourself as a pure profile management solution, so you're working well with the others because you have additional functionalities that nobody else has out there in the market. Hey, what if you two of you gave us a short summary of your products before we come to the final Q&A round?
Yeah, sounds good. You want me to go first? If so,
Yes.
Sasha, Brandon, you got to give me back control. Thanks,
Yep.
sir.
Here we go.
All right, so we like to call this the digital workspace transformation. We either heard those words and liked them, or we came up with them ourselves. You decide. But the idea is, you want to roll this stuff out, and if you're like, if someone says to you, I need to be on Office 365 by the end of Q1, you want this to be simple and easy to do. So we are design gold to get you there. But you've got to be able to show benefits. And one of the big benefits you'll see in our product is application launch times are much faster compared with something like folder redirection. And then I won't call them out by name, but I see a couple of customer names on here who've told us personally how much money they've saved by not having to patch all of their images. Hiring either a contractor or a low-level employee still adds up over the years. And, our goal, we're on that non-persistent. We're on team non-persistent. We really think that's the best way to go. Persistent desktops are just a waste of time and money and labor. So wherever we can help you with that, that's our goal.
Wonderful. Sasha, you got something to
Yes.
add?
No, perfect. So it's just our a bit of a delay here, but it's fine. No, I think from our side, so deviceTRUST. So we, when I started the presentation, we're device context awareness for your virtual session. So we have the solution, and that's something where we're really strong with by our reference customers. Is we have the solution which delivers the context into the virtual session for your digital workspace transformation. That's what we see in the customer side. This enables this mobilization of the endpoints and the user. But the important piece here for us is we do it, and you saw that on the beginning of the slides as well, these three topics: simple, dynamic, integrate. We do it simple because we have no requirements for any additional backend software for us. So we've totally implement us ourselves in what you have. So there's no need for us for endpoint for any backend solutions. It's easy to implement, and we are quite quick with that. So it's very easy to evaluate, to install our software. We are fully dynamic. What we mean with that, we are always up to date, and the information or the context, the attributes are always available. Also, when dynamic changes happen, as you have seen before. And the last point is for us, it's very important, is we easy consumable, and we integrate ourselves by this quite easily with your existing management solutions, as we have seen here now with FSLogix. And for the reporting side, as I mentioned during the session, we report everything we do into the event log, so it could be easily consumed with your reporting engines as well. And that's the key for us. We deliver the context. We want to do it simple, fully dynamic, and integrate in what you have. That is my summary about deviceTRUST. And
Wonderful.
we really, yeah.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
So, thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Sasha. So we have a couple of questions. There are, you see here, there was a prepared slide with 2 questions, but we already have questions from our attendees. And one of the questions is, how is it all licensed? So can you shed some light on that, both of you, please?
I can start.
Yes.
So to talk about deviceTRUST. So deviceTRUST is a subscription-based license model. So you can consume it on a monthly basis, which is pay-as-you-go model, or you say I want to use it for 12 months, for 24 months, etc. And then then you can have a contract for that. But end of the day, it's a subscription-based license model which we have. Over to you, Kevin.
Yeah, the same is true for FSLogix. And it's licensed by user. It's subscription based.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have in the past done some perpetual deals, but typically most of our customers want to do it subscription based.
That's a good point, Kevin. I need to mention that we are licensed per user. Well, that's important. So it's independent how many devices the user is using. We are just licensing the user in our subscription model.
Okay, thank you. Another question that I have here in the list is, were all the policies and conditions applied? I think we have seen that in the demo, but since the question came up here again in this, well, in the window here, can you shed again some light on that? Where do the policies and conditions where are they applied?
I think you asked me, Benny.
Yes, yes.
So I start to answer that. So overall, the product itself is configured by group policies or local policy, depends on how you want to do it. Within the configuration, you can define, first of all, what kind of attributes you're looking for. So we have, at the moment, we have on a Windows platform more than 150 different attributes we deliver into the virtual session. So you can define, first of all, what are the ones you're looking for. And then the logic you're looking for about to combine these different attributes is done in our trigger, and then within the trigger you can apply different things like a script, like a PowerShell script, batch script, whatever you can imagine you can apply here. And within this script we define the logic for the context and how you combine this information to define your own context you're looking for. That's what we're doing.
Okay. Oh. A brand new question that just popped up. Does Microsoft recognize the solution as a valid means of maintaining their device-based licensing model? Wow, this is a tough one.
Not so tough. So Microsoft recognizes FSLogix for doing device-based whitelisting. They've been personally in contact with us and said we do not really like your reporting in the existing version. So the next version that comes out will have a reporting piece that both FSLogix and deviceTRUST can plug into. Once we get that reporting piece to us, they said they'd go public with their recognition. Right now, they hate digging through our logs and the event viewer and stuff like that.
They want more eye candy.
Yeah, well, no, they want to make it easier on the they just want to make it easier on the auditor. Hi, shoot me a report. I don't care if it's an SECM, but just shoot me a report.
Yes.
Don't make me open up the event viewer. So we took that to heart, and our next version will have that in there.
I'm fully agree with Kevin on that point. Of the things we learned from our joint customers here in Europe, I think there's two important things you need to show to an auditor. Number one is how you identify the endpoint. So what is a unique identifier for your endpoint? And the second one is how you report on that. And that's exactly what Kevin describing where we both together as a solution. We're working on the reporting side at the moment, but that's the two things we learned by doing this for customers is how you identify an endpoint, and that's another important step is how you report on that. That's exactly what Kevin is saying.
Nice. Yeah, we have a very active audience because now the question is when will the reporting piece be available?
Hey, sign up. Yeah, sign up for our beta. You can go to our website right now. I don't think it's full, but you can go to our website and sign up for our beta. We require you sign an NDA and some other stuff like that. But if you go by our website and sign up for our beta, we'll get you involved for that.
And that will include the events that are generated also by deviceTRUST.
Yes, correct. We work together with FSLogix. So if someone is requesting that as part of the beta program, we are open. So we work aligned together on that request.
Okay. Are there any virtualization platform restrictions for either of your solutions?
No, we work across the board. As a matter of fact, we don't know. We know Windows, so we are Windows 7 and above.
So you don't really care about the virtualization platform.
Yeah, we don't know what hypervisor's underneath of us. We don't know, we're aware of, but we support all of the Citrix, XenApp, XenDesktop, Horizon.
Yeah, here's a new question that that pops up here now that we're talking about that. Is there any fat client support? Is that something that you have on the radar?
That's a very good point. I want to catch on is I think what we heard from our customers in the past was to deviceTRUST, that's nice that I can consume this information within the virtual session, but you know what? I have some different remote access solution, and one of the solution was named quite often is the thing Citrix NetScaler. So they ask us, can we provide this information before you connect to your end user computing environment? So and that's exactly what we're doing. So from our side, from the deviceTRUST side, we will have a fat client edition by end of this year. So the fat client will have the same capabilities as you would run within the virtual session. So we will have the same kind of things. We can do what you have seen in the videos. We can do together with FSLogix also for fat clients, absolutely. But not now. To make this clear, it's coming as part of our next release by end of this year. We will have a full fat client from our side. And we work together. I think, Kevin, you mentioned that FSLogix is also working on the fat client side already.
So FSLogix supports fat clients today. In image management, for most of your pieces, it makes sense. As we had one customer who wanted to turn off the webcam when they left a certain wireless network for PCI compliance and things like that. That piece may be waiting on deviceTRUST because we just some of those things we don't know. But the rest of it, we work with fat clients today. There are some situations where it doesn't make sense. Do I want to have a terabyte drive for a customer that's not going to use the accounting software just so I can turn that accounting software off? Doesn't particularly make a lot of sense in some of the areas, but it is supported.
Okay. One final question from the audience that I have here is both of you are applying the GPOs for the configuration is done through GPOs, both for FSLogix and deviceTRUST. And the question was, is there this only stored in AD, or is there any sort of database? As far as I know, there is no database. Can you confirm that?
Correct. From my side, for deviceTRUST, and I think it's the same for FSLogix, there's no requirements on any storage backend like SQL Server or something, or web server, or whatever you use.
Yeah,
this
you highlighted that a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah, this is all native within the ADMX.
Okay. Yeah, which is why we can get the scalability that we get since we're client side only there. You can actually pre-package our stuff up and put it into the base image. When you seal up that base image, then the one way you can configure it is by changing users out of Active Directory security groups. For example, user calls up and says, I haven't been trained on Office 2016 yet. Could I please go back to 2013? You just change them in Active Directory, and the next time they log on, it'll work.
Okay. Hey, final question. That's from my side. Hey, when did you first see the huge potential of combining your two products to such a powerful solution? Sasha, so what's your take on that?
I really like this question. I think number one is there's multiple factors which brought us together, and I think I really like that approach. So number one is we had a joint customer. So we had a customer we worked with, and FSLogix was working with, and then the customer was saying, hey, can you? I have this requirement, but I need the other solution as well. So, and that was the start where we started to talk to each other. That was the first step, and on the other side, which is also quite interesting, here based in EMEA, our distributor is one of the same, is Priando, and the Priando guys around Mark Stieber, they came to us as well and said, hey, we want to put deviceTRUST on our portfolio, and this nicely fits into FSLogix, so there's a second, I think that was the second start with FSLogix. So one was customer-driven, and the other one was driven by our channel partner, Priando, and I really like that approach. And I think, Kevin, anything to add from your side?
Oh, yeah. I'll be glad to add that I actually hate this question because it forces me to admit that I didn't foresee this ahead of time and reach out and find deviceTRUST. I had to depend on our disti as well as 2 or 3 customers saying, hey, how come you don't integrate with these guys? So, yes, what I'd like to tell you is I've known all along we were going to need to do this, and I was waiting for the day when Sasha and Jens founded deviceTRUST, but that's actually not true.
Okay, so it's almost a full hour, so I think we went through that, and we answered all the questions that we had from the audience. Wonderful, so it's great timing. So I want to thank you both for your great presentations on your products and for the demos and answering all those questions. Brandon, anything to add? No, he's muted. So that
You just
leaves
made
me.
Brandon spill his coffee. What?
Oh, no, he's finished knocked. Huh? Sorry about that, Brandon. We did not rehearse that.
Sometimes I have trouble with
So I want to say thank you, and thank you also for our audience for asking all these interesting questions. And well, all I can say is goodbye.
Also, thank you from my side, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks,
recorded,
everyone.
so everybody will be able to access this later. And thank you all again for your time as well. And thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Have a good day.